you know I'm addicted to you. And it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil.
Yin stood in front of her mother's grave, a simple marble tombstone with an inscription so familiar to her, Park Jiwon. A year had passed since her mother's passing, yet the pain of loss was still fresh, like a wound that hadn't healed. She held a white chrysanthemum in her hand, remembering her mother's gentle smile, her warm voice that could no longer be heard. The longing was so overwhelming. She wished she could see her mother's face again. "I miss you, Mom," she whispered softly. Her voice trembled, stifled by the grief she had kept inside. Beside her stood Dongho, her stepfather, who had cared for her with love after her mother passed away. Next to Dongho was Yuna, her stepsister, her head bowed, eyes red from holding back tears. Although they were not her biological family, Yin felt grateful to have them. In the darkest moments of her life, they were the family she needed. They were there to comfort her. "Yin, your mother would be proud of you," Dongho said, trying to offer strength. "She would want you to be happy. Don't worry, Yuna and I will always be here to look after you." Yin turned to her stepfather and gave him a weak smile. "Thank you, Dad. I know Mom loved all of us, including you both." The three of them stood there under the gray sky, which seemed to mourn along with them. Time passed quickly, and after about half an hour, they decided to go home. Yin felt relieved. Even though losing her mother was a deep wound, the presence of Dongho and Yuna gave her the strength to keep going. Days passed in their usual quietness until news arrived at their family home. Yuna would soon be married. However, instead of the expected joy, there was no trace of happiness on Yuna's face. She seemed more and more distressed every day. Until one evening, at the quiet dining table, the tension erupted. Yuna finally protested against her father, objecting to the arranged marriage. "I don't want to marry him, Dad. I refuse," Yuna shouted, staring sharply at her father, her voice tense. "You don't know what you're doing. You're arranging a marriage with a man I don't know, a man I don't love, just for your business. Besides, he's a notorious mafia known for his brutality. What will happen to me if I'm with him? Are you willing to risk my life with them?" Yuna protested, completely against her father's plan. Dongho took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Yuna, this isn't just about business. Jungkook comes from a good family, a family that can help us grow. Only his family can support us in advancing further. His family is extremely wealthy. He'll be able to provide whatever you want," Dongho explained, trying to persuade his daughter. Yin, sitting at the end of the table, could only listen anxiously to the argument. She knew this arranged marriage wouldn't end well. From the beginning, Yuna had vehemently refused the marriage to Jeon Jungkook, her father's business associate's son. Jungkook. For some reason, she felt she'd heard that name before. "Then why doesn't Yin marry him? Isn't she also your daughter?" Yuna retorted. Hearing Yuna's words, Yin was shocked. She quickly shook her head. "No, I don't want to do it," Yin rejected. As Yuna was about to reply, Dongho immediately cut her off. "It's okay, Yin. Don't worry. I won't ask you to do it. Besides, this isn't your concern. I don't want to drag you into this. Yuna is my biological daughter, and this marriage is her responsibility," Dongho stated firmly as if it were an unquestionable command. Yin breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, her father did not entertain her sister's suggestion. She also wasn't ready to marry, especially not to a stranger who was clearly a dangerous man for her. She couldn't imagine living with that man. Yuna became even more upset as her father ignored her opinions. "You only care about profits, Dad. You don't even care how I feel." Yuna slammed the table, her tears starting to fall. She rose from her seat and was about to leave. But before she did, she said, "If anything happens to me, it's your fault." Yuna cried, looking at her father with disappointment. Yin lowered her gaze when her eyes met Yuna's. She knew her sister was probably angry at her for not being able to help. "I'm sorry, sister, but this concerns my future too. I'm sorry, I can't do anything," she murmured to herself. Although there was a sense of relief in her heart, she was still worried for her sister. She could only hope and pray for her sister's safety. Tonight, a family dinner was held at a restaurant with the family of the man Yuna would marry. Yin, dressed in a simple pastel-colored gown, sat at the table with Dongho and Yuna. They awaited the arrival of Jungkook's family. Yin noticed the sour expression on Yuna's face, causing their father to sigh. "Yuna, try to smile a bit. Don't show that scowl in front of them," Dongho reprimanded. Yuna scoffed softly, folding her arms. "I don't care. If they don't like it, they can call off the wedding," Yuna replied indifferently. "Yuna, watch your words. If this marriage falls through, I'll make sure you won't have any freedom left," Dongho warned. Yuna glared at her father. "You're selfish." Moments later, the doors opened, and Jungkook's family entered. Among the middle-aged couple who came in, a very handsome young man accompanied them. Yin was a bit startled when she recognized him. Jeon Jungkook, her senior from high school. Although they hadn't seen each other in a long time, he hadn't changed much. So, the man her sister would marry was her former senior. Jeon Jungkook. The name brought back memories of her high school days. Jungkook, the senior known for being cold and distant, was not only handsome, but also exceptionally smart. But Yin knew Jungkook wasn't the type to be easily approached. He always kept his distance, and only a select few could be close to him. Back in high school, Yin was a freshman while Jungkook was a sophomore. Jungkook still appeared the same to Yin, handsome, charismatic, yet cold. He sat calmly at the end of the table, showing no expression. Occasionally, he looked at Yoona sitting across from him, but his gaze held no warmth. Yin found it strange to see Jungkook in a setting that should have been warm and familial, but instead felt cold and very tense. Sorry we're a bit late, the traffic was heavy. Jungkook's father, Jeon Yunho, apologized. Dongho quickly shook his head. It's no problem, we've only just arrived too. Dongho replied with a wide smile, clearly eager to win over his future in-laws. As the conversation turned to the wedding plans, Jungkook mostly listened without saying much. Meanwhile, Dongho enthusiastically spoke about their grand plans for after the marriage, the business partnership, and how the two families would unite. The wedding will take place in a week, Jungkook's father said. While Jungkook only gave a small nod, Yoona looked visibly displeased. However, she couldn't voice her objections with her father's stern gaze silencing her. Alright, I agree with that. The sooner, the better, right? Dongho replied, laughing. Yin stole a glance at Jungkook. There was something unreachable about him, something that concealed his true feelings as if no one could guess what was on his mind. But Yin knew one thing. Jungkook didn't seem to care about his own marriage. He seemed merely to go along with it, indifferent to what was happening around him. After they returned from the restaurant, Yin followed Yoona to her bedroom. Yoona's face was still tense. Are you okay? Yin asked, sitting on the edge of her sister's bed. Yoona sighed deeply, looking at her younger sister with tired eyes. I don't know, Yin. It feels like I'm surrendering my life to someone I don't know. Jeon Jungkook. He's terrifying. Yin held her sister's hand tightly. I understand how you feel, but maybe Jungkook isn't as bad as you think. Yoona smiled weakly. I hope so. 1 week later, the day of Yoona's wedding arrived, but since the morning, Yoona had disappeared. Everyone was in a panic, especially Dongho, who ran back and forth looking for his beloved daughter. Yin felt her heart sink with anxiety. How could Yoona vanish just like that? Meanwhile, all the wedding preparations were flawless. Jungkook's family had already arrived at the hotel ballroom where the wedding was supposed to take place, and the guests were beginning to arrive. What should we do? How could this happen? Dongho asked, his face filled with worry. I can't disappoint the Jeon family. This will ruin our reputation, especially since they're such a powerful family. They could destroy us if they feel we've humiliated them. Dongho lamented, visibly frustrated. In desperation, Dongho looked at Yin with a pleading gaze. Yin, please, I'm asking for your help. I know this is hard, but you're the only one who can save us. Please, take Yoona's place. I don't know what else to do. Dongho begged, holding Yin's hands tightly. Yin fell silent, her heart pounding. Dad, I can't. I don't want to marry him. Please, Yin, I beg you. Dongho pleaded. I know this isn't fair to you, but I have no other choice. You're the only one who can save our family's honor. You know how powerful the Jeon family is. If the wedding is called off, our family won't survive. Do you want to see your father die? Tears started to fill Yin's eyes. The world seemed to spin so fast. She wanted to refuse, but her father's desperate words softened her heart. She couldn't abandon the man who had cared for her as his own daughter after her mother passed. She was also genuinely worried about what might happen if the wedding was canceled. She could only imagine the Jeon family's anger. Her father would certainly be in danger. All right, Yin finally said, her voice quiet but firm. I'll do it. Dongho sighed in relief. Thank you, Yin. I'll never forget your sacrifice. After explaining the truth about Yoona's sudden disappearance, Jungkook's parents accepted Yin as a substitute bride for their son. They didn't want the embarrassment of canceling the event with so many guests already present. The wedding proceeded as planned, though Yin's emotions were in turmoil. Walking down the aisle with Jungkook felt like a nightmare. Oddly, Jungkook remained calm, as if none of it mattered to him, as if it didn't matter who became his wife. In Yin's mind, she wondered if Jungkook's heart was too cold to care about anything. If that was true, it made him seem frighteningly unfeeling. After the ceremony, they were officially husband and wife. From that moment on, Yin's life changed forever. That afternoon, they returned to Jungkook's mansion. The reception was kept short, as Jungkook disliked socializing for too long with guests. Upon arriving at the mansion, they were met by maids and guards who were always on standby. Yin was amazed by the mansion's facilities, which were incredibly luxurious. She felt that Jungkook's home was 2 or 3 times larger than her own family's. Jungkook, where will I be sleeping? Yin asked cautiously. Jungkook furrowed his brows at her question. Your room? You mean our room, right? Come on, I'll show you, Jungkook said, already heading up the stairs. Yin quickly followed her new husband, too hesitant to ask more. Truthfully, she felt somewhat fearful of him and even wished they could sleep in separate rooms, though she was too nervous to suggest it. They entered an exceptionally spacious bedroom. Yin noticed it was even larger than her own room back home. Your suitcase is in the dressing room over there. I've also prepared everything you need in there. If there's anything else you want, just let me know. I'll be in my workplace if you need me, Jungkook said, leaving Yin behind. Yin was surprised by Jungkook's less than cold demeanor. She had thought he wouldn't want to share a room with her. Not wanting to dwell on it, she quickly freshened up. After getting ready, she sat at the vanity and looked at herself in the mirror. For a moment, she stared at her reflection, trying to process that she was now someone's wife. She touched the wedding ring Jungkook had given her. Her feelings were a whirlwind. She didn't know how to react, whether she should feel sad because of the sudden marriage or glad that Jungkook wasn't being cold toward her. Can I really go through with this? She murmured to herself, her voice barely a whisper. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and Yin knew it was likely one of the maids. Come in, she called softly. The door opened slowly. A maid entered, bowing slightly before speaking. Madam, are you ready? Dinner will begin shortly, and Mr. Jungkook is waiting for you, she said politely. Yin nodded, startled. Yes, I'll be down shortly. She shook herself from her thoughts and left the room. Yin walked to the dining room, where Jungkook was already seated, waiting for her. As she was about to sit a bit further from him, Jungkook interrupted. Why are you sitting so far away? Come sit here, Jungkook said, pointing to the chair next to him. She hesitated briefly before taking the seat near him. The maids have prepared all this food. These are all your favorites, right? Jungkook asked. Yin looked at the dishes on the table, amazed to see all her favorite foods. How did you know? She asked, surprised. Jungkook rested his chin on his hand, gazing at her. I have to know everything about my wife, don't I? He replied, beginning the meal. Yin was taken aback, but she started eating to divert her thoughts. They remained mostly silent during dinner, but despite that, Yin felt comfortable, perhaps because of Jungkook's warmth earlier. Honestly, at first, she was confused by Jungkook's behavior, which didn't match her expectations. She had thought he would never acknowledge her as his wife, yet now he was treating her as a husband should. It made her feel a strange warmth in her heart. After dinner, Yin heads to the bedroom first, while Jungkook stays back, likely going to his workplace. Honestly, Yin doesn't mind. It's even better if he goes straight to work, allowing her to sleep without feeling nervous. Just as she thought this, the bedroom door opened, and Jungkook walked in. Their eyes met briefly before he headed straight to the bathroom. Yin, who had been holding her breath, exhaled with relief. She quickly got under the covers, positioning herself to sleep with her back facing the empty side of the bed where Jungkook would later lie down. 10 minutes later, the bathroom door opened, and Jungkook stepped out, heading to the empty side of the bed. Yin's heart was racing. She closed her eyes, pretending to be asleep. She felt the mattress shift beside her as Jungkook lay down, but shortly after, a strong arm gently wrapped around her waist, making her freeze. She knew it could only be Jungkook's. Her surprise grew as she felt soft kisses on her ear, trailing down to her neck. Her body tensed. She was both nervous and surprised Jungkook would do this. His hand, large and warm, slipped onto the skin of her stomach. Yin's hand instinctively moved to stop him, but instead, it only rested on his hand, as if she lacked the strength to resist. With difficulty, Yin whispered, Jungkook, does it have to be tonight? Her voice was barely audible. Jungkook didn't stop. His hand now rested on her. You don't want to tonight? Do you think we should wait? He whispered into her ear. Yin remained silent, torn between answering his question and the new sensations coursing through her. Jungkook smirked. Alright, I won't force you, but if you don't want this, just stop me. Yet Jungkook continued, and Yin's hand, still touching his, didn't hold him back. It almost felt as if she was following his movements. Jungkook smiled, realizing she was already caught up in the moment, without the slightest resistance. From the side, he could see Yin's expression, her eyes closed, biting her lip. Seeing this, Jungkook smiled with satisfaction, and that night became a long one for both of them. That wasn't the only thing that warmed her heart. At exactly 6 in the evening, Jungkook returned home from the office. According to some of the maids, Jungkook never used to come home early. If not late at night, he wouldn't come home at all. Yin, I'm home. Jungkook greeted her with a faint smile as he approached her. Yin welcomed her husband with a wide smile. This is for you, Jungkook said, handing her a bouquet of red roses. Yin was still surprised, even though Jungkook had brought her something every day. Thank you. Jungkook's genuine efforts to treat her as his wife made her want to learn to love him. It seemed easy for her to fall for Jungkook after everything he had done for her. A week later, finally, we can get together again after so long. Right? We've all been busy with our own lives, especially the married ones. Yin chuckled softly. Come on, the important thing is I can still hang out with you guys, right? Yin replied. Her old college friends nodded. Yin felt happy to finally hang out after her marriage. She was feeling bored staying in that big house all the time. She had asked Jungkook's permission to go out with her friends, and he even gave her a black card, encouraging her to shop and treat her friends. Initially, she tried to refuse, but Jungkook insisted she take it. As Yin walked with her friends in the mall, one of them suddenly spoke up, surprising her. Yin, isn't that your sister, Yuna? She quickly turned her gaze, and sure enough, she saw her sister in front of a clothing store. Yuna looked directly at Yin, eyes widening before attempting to run away. However, Yin quickly followed and stopped her. Sis, don't go, Yin pleaded. Let go of me, Yin. I have to leave, Yuna said, glancing around. We need to talk, sis. Come with me, Yin insisted, saying goodbye to her friends and bringing Yuna to a cafe to question her about the events of the past week. Sis, what happened? Why did you run away from your own wedding? Yin asked, trying to contain her anger and worry. Yuna looked down, avoiding her sister's gaze. Yin, I'm sorry. I just couldn't go through with that marriage. What do you mean? It was an arranged marriage. But why didn't you show up that day? You didn't even tell anyone. I couldn't because... Yuna paused, biting her lip. Because Jungkook told me to leave. Yin was stunned. What? Jungkook? Yuna nodded slowly. Yes, he told me to go and even gave me money to escape. He said if I didn't leave, he'd kill me. He didn't want to marry me from the beginning. Yin was silent, her world turned upside down. Jungkook did that? Yuna looked at her with anxious eyes. Yes, I don't know why, but he said it was all part of his plan. Yin swallowed hard, her whole body trembling. She didn't know what to say. How could Jungkook, who had seemed so calm and kind, have planned something like this? What was the meaning behind all this? What else did he tell you? Yin asked, her voice barely a whisper. Yuna shook her head. He only said I should run as far as I could, and that there were bigger things going on, things I didn't understand. Yin, you need to be careful around him. Yin sat silently, trying to process all the new information she had just heard. Bigger things? What was her husband really planning? When Yin returned to the mansion, the night was late. She initially intended to head straight to their bedroom, her mind still consumed with Yuna's words. But she saw Jungkook sitting in his workplace, appearing as calm as ever. Yet, behind that calm, Yin could only see one thing now: secrets. She had to know the truth. With steady steps, Yin entered Jungkook's workplace, determined to demand answers. We need to talk. Jungkook looked up from the document he was reading. About what? My sister, Yuna. Did you really tell her to run away on the wedding day? Jungkook looked at her with a calm gaze, as if the question hadn't surprised him at all. Yes, that's true. Yin's heart sank. Why? Why did you do it? Jungkook set down his document, then leaned back in his chair. Because there are things you don't know, Yin. Your stepfather, Dongho, is not who you think he is. Yin stared at Jungkook, disbelief filling her. Her mind screamed, questioning what was really going on. This man, her new husband, was calmly admitting he'd everything. But that wasn't all. He'd just mentioned her stepfather. What do you mean, Jungkook? What do you know about him? Yin asked, her voice shaking, her eyes fixed on the man who now felt more like a stranger. Her husband, it seemed, had many secrets. Jungkook sighed softly, as if weighing how much he should reveal. After a few moments of silence that felt endless, he finally spoke. Your stepfather, Dongho, is not just a businessman. He's involved in a dark world, far deeper than you can imagine. And he has a sinister plan for your family. That's why he wanted to form an alliance with my family, to strengthen his position, because he knows my family is more powerful and he needs our support. He arranged the marriage between Yuna and me because Yuna is his biological daughter. He wanted her to be safe with me, but you're only his stepdaughter. In fact, he didn't want you to be my wife because he feared that all his secrets would be exposed. There was too much for Yin to process, her mind feeling overwhelmed. I don't understand what you're saying. This doesn't sound like my father, Yin replied. Yin, listen to me. Jungkook rose from his chair, walking slowly towards her. Dongho isn't just a businessman. He's a mafia leader, a powerful one. He's been eyeing your mother's wealth and your family's businesses. Your family owns several five-star hotels, right? He wants it all. That's the reason he married your mother. Yin felt her strength wane as she listened to each word that left Jungkook's lips. Her mind tried to deny it, but something in his tone made it impossible to ignore. No, that can't be, she whispered weakly, almost inaudibly. Jungkook nodded slowly. That's the truth. He's pretended to care about all of you, but it's all part of his plan. Even your mother's death. Yin froze. Her world seemed to collapse around her. What do you mean? What about my mother's death? Jungkook looked at her intently. Your mother didn't die from a heart condition like you've been told. She was murdered, Yin. Poisoned gradually by Dongho, bit by bit. It was all so he could take control of your family's business after her death. Yin stumbled back a few steps, nearly losing her balance. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she was too shocked to cry. That can't be. You're lying. I'm not lying, Jungkook said firmly. I have proof. I investigated everything before we got married. Even the doctor who treated your mother was involved. They falsified reports saying she died of a heart condition when it was actually the poison that slowly killed her. Yin sank to the floor, her body shaking uncontrollably. Her hands gripped the carpet beneath her as if searching for something stable. How could all of this happen without her knowing? How could the man she thought of as her father be capable of such cruelty? Yin. Jungkook knelt in front of her, his voice gentler this time. I know this is hard for you, but I couldn't stay silent after learning the truth. I married you because I knew that if I didn't, Dongho would eliminate you too, just like he did your mother. Yin lifted her tear-streaked face, looking at Jungkook with glassy eyes. Why? Why do you care? You don't even love me. You're only involved because of your family's business, aren't you? Jungkook took a deep breath, looking deeply into her eyes. At first, maybe yes. The marriage that Dongho and my parents arranged was purely part of a business deal. But over time, I realized how deceitful he truly is. And when I saw who you are, I couldn't let you get trapped in Dongho's evil plan. You don't deserve any of this. Yin was silent. Her heart was still in turmoil, but something in Jungkook's words made her feel a little safer. So, you married me to protect me? Jungkook nodded slowly. That's right. I'd rather be on your side than on Dongho's. That's why I chose to marry you instead of Yuna. I may not be the husband you dreamed of, but I'll make sure you're safe from everything, including Dongho. Yin still felt confused, torn between anger, sadness, and fear. Why? What made you choose me? Jungkook sighed gently. Actually, there are several reasons, not just one that I considered. First, maybe because we went to the same school before. I feel a stronger bond with you than with Yuna, so unconsciously, I felt more inclined to side with you. Second, I know Yuna is aware of her father's plan, but she can't oppose him. She will always be loyal to him. That means you're the victim here. You're in the weaker position, and I want to protect you. Someone who knows nothing and has no one to support you. And the third reason, Jungkook paused before finally smiling mischievously at her. The last reason is that you're far more beautiful than Yuna, so I prefer you as my wife. Jungkook chuckled softly, though Yin didn't seem interested in joking at the moment. Jungkook, can you help me? Jungkook extended his hand, helping Yin up from the floor. Of course, you're my wife now. What do you want? I want to avenge my mother's death. I can't let those people live peacefully after what they've done, Yin said, her voice trembling. Jungkook gave a faint smile. Don't worry, I've already planned for that. Yin looked at him, feeling trust beginning to grow in her heart. What are you planning, Jungkook? Jungkook smiled subtly, a smile filled with meaning. Just wait, you'll know in time. A few days later, Yin stood beside Jungkook, feeling tense as they entered an abandoned house deep in the woods. Jungkook had brought her here for reasons she still didn't fully understand, but there was an underlying tension in the air that kept her on edge. Why did you bring me here, Jungkook? Yin asked. Didn't you say you wanted the truth? Jungkook replied, gently holding her cold, slightly trembling hand, guiding her inside. In front of them, her stepfather, Dongho, sat bound to a chair. His face registered shock as he saw Yin appear with Jungkook. The doctor who had treated her mother was also there, sitting beside Dongho, looking tense and bound in the same way. Yin, Dongho called to her softly, still pretending to be the caring father. What are you doing here? Yin glared at him. I know everything. About my mother. Everything. Dongho's expression shifted, a mix of shock and anger crossing his face. What are you talking about? That's not true. I would never kill her. I loved your mother dearly. Yin was taken aback by his words. I only said I knew about my mother, but you've exposed your guilt yourself by denying it so defensively. I never said you killed her, yet you immediately tried to defend yourself. That means you really did. Dongho's face went pale, realizing he had trapped himself. Yin, believe me, I never did anything wrong to your mother. Stop lying. Yin cut him off sharply, tears streaming down her face. I know you poisoned her, and you were planning the same thing for me. Dongho shook his head, still trying to persuade Yin, but Jungkook raised his hand, signaling him to stop talking. That's enough, Dongho. Your scheme is exposed. You can't deny it anymore. Dongho looked at Jungkook with hatred. This is all you're doing, isn't it? You've poisoned Yin with your lies. Jungkook gave a faint smile. This isn't a lie. You've been manipulating and destroying this family all along. And now, your time is up. He pulled a pistol from inside his leather jacket. Dongho sighed deeply, knowing his time was indeed over. All right, I admit it. Everything you know is true, he confessed. Hearing it directly from him caused Yin's heart to ache deeply. Why? Why did you do all this? What did my mother and I ever do to you? She cried in anger and pain. You foolish girl. Your mother was too naive, too easy to manipulate. I only acted kind to get her wealth, Dongho said with a twisted smile. But my plan backfired. I never expected the marriage arrangement I set up would turn against me. Jungkook ended up siding with you and orchestrating all of this. What a disaster. You deserve to join your mother in the afterlife. Yin was stunned, unable to believe the sharp, cruel words from the man who had once protected her. This was his true self. Seeing her silent, shaken state, Jungkook could no longer hold back. He shot Dongho and the doctor right in front of Yin, without the slightest hesitation. Both of them were dead. Yin stood in shock. The scene was swift, as if all the pain and hatred that had built up finally ended in a single gunshot. Jungkook looked at her, trying to gauge her expression. I know this is hard, but it was the only way to stop them. Yin sobbed, torn between relief and shock. You're right. But why would you go this far? Why would you do all this for me? Jungkook stepped closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. Because I couldn't let you keep suffering. You deserve to live peacefully, free from their shadows. Yin looked at him, searching for truth in his words. Beneath all his cold and calculating actions, there was something in him that made Yin believe he didn't do this just to protect her. Those eyes. Jungkook's eyes were always so gentle when they looked at her. You truly care about me, don't you? She asked softly, almost in disbelief. Jungkook nodded, his face serious. More than you know, Yin. 2 days later, in a large, silent office, Jungkook sat on his chair, gazing out the window. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm evening glow over the city. Yet, the atmosphere in the office was cold and tense. In front of him stood Yoona, her face flushed with anger. You broke your promise, Jungkook, she shouted, her voice echoing in the spacious room. You said you wouldn't kill my father if I ran away from that marriage, but now he's dead. Jungkook didn't move, only stared at her with an unreadable expression. That promise was never relevant for your father, who was also a murderer. Do you really think I'd let him live after Yin became my wife? And should I remind you, in case you've forgotten, that it was your father who killed Yin's mother? You're just like us, a killer. Yoona screamed again, growing more emotional. You think you can get away with all this? I won't let you. I'll make sure you pay for everything you've done. Jungkook remained calm, though his anger was already seething beneath the surface. You want to fight me, After all this, you still think you have the power to take on me and my family? Yoona didn't answer, but her expression betrayed her deep hatred. She had never imagined that her father's plan to solidify his position would be his undoing. Now, she was alone, without protection, consumed only by the fury burning in her heart. You know, Jungkook continued, his voice low but menacing. I gave you a chance to leave and start a new life, but now you've come back to threaten me? That was a huge mistake. Before Yoona could respond, the deafening sound of a gunshot echoed through the room. Yoona's body fell to the floor. Jungkook remained seated, his face showing no emotion whatsoever. A moment later, he placed the pistol back into the drawer, then stood up and left the room as if nothing had happened. Upon reaching the door, he instructed his guards to clean up the mess inside. Clean up the trash in my office immediately. I don't want any trace or smell left behind, he ordered coldly. Yes, sir, they replied, bowing respectfully. As night fell, Yin sat on the sofa in their bedroom, feeling restless. Since the last encounter with her stepfather, her thoughts kept drifting, filled with memories of the past and uncertainty about the future. Jungkook hadn't come home yet, and for some reason, her anxiety was growing stronger. Suddenly, the bedroom door opened, and she heard Jungkook's footsteps entering the bedroom. Yin immediately stood up, looking at her husband with a questioning expression. Where have you been? What were you doing? Jungkook looked at her calmly as usual. I was just at the office. There was something I needed to finish. Yin felt a tightening in her chest as if something terrible had happened. What? What kind of thing? Jungkook moved closer, reaching out to gently take Yin's hand in his. Your sister won't disturb your life anymore. You don't need to worry. Yin was silent, her face turning pale. What did you do to her? Jungkook nodded slowly. It's part of protecting you, Yin. She became a threat, and I did what I had to do. Tears streamed down Yin's face uncontrollably. Did she know her father's plan? Jungkook pulled Yin into his arms, hugging her tightly. Yes, she knew, and she came to threaten me. That's why I killed her. She chose her father's side. After all, he was her biological father. Yin wept softly in Jungkook's embrace. I'm sorry you have to go through all this, but I promise from now on, there will be no more threats. You'll be safe with me. Just rest easy. I'll always be on your side. Hearing this eased her heart. But why are you doing all this? What is your real goal? It's simple. I've had enough of what Dongho has done. He deserved all of it. If I didn't eliminate him now, he'd only grow more powerful later, Jungkook explained. Even though she felt relief knowing Jungkook was on her side, a new fear crept into a corner of her heart. What if, one day, the man she trusted turned on her? What if, in the future, this mysterious man she married became a threat to her too? Seeing Yin still looking gloomy, Jungkook cupped her cheeks. What's wrong? Are you mad because I killed them? He asked. Yin shook her head slowly. It's not that, I'm just scared. What if someday you turn around and kill me too? She said softly. Hearing her question, Jungkook chuckled quietly. He quickly kissed Yin on the lips. Don't worry, that will never happen. Just be a good wife to me, and don't ever cheat either, Jungkook said with a smile. Yin nodded, and they held each other tightly. Jungkook kissed the top of her head with a promise to protect her, even with his life. Yin didn't know what the future held, but for now, she truly wanted to enjoy being Jiyeon Jungkook's wife. They held each other for a long time until Jungkook finally pulled back, then kissed her passionately. Yin returned his kiss, letting the moment linger. After a few minutes, Jungkook broke the kiss. His eyes were heavy with desire as he looked at his wife, lifting a hand to gently caress her cheek. Baby, I want you now, he said in a husky voice. Yin swallowed hard, then finally nodded, offering him her warmest smile. Jungkook smirked, lifting Yin and carrying her to their bed, ready to enjoy a beautiful night together. And it turned out that after that night, Jungkook began to ask for her every night, as if Yin's body truly made him addicted. Yin didn't dare to refuse. Her only choice was to enjoy it as long as Jungkook treated her well. Being Jungkook's wife wasn't as bad as she had imagined. She was actually starting to enjoy her life.